She sent me a text by mistake. Once he pays my loans, I'm gone. It happened on a Tuesday, a day so painfully, brutally ordinary that the memory of it now feels like a cruel joke. I was in my home office, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across my desk, trying to wrap up a final project proposal before dinner. A notification, a small, unassuming ping, lit up the screen of our shared family tablet. We rarely used the thing. It mostly just sat on its charger on the corner of my desk, a digital paperweight. But for some reason, some fateful, instinctual impulse, I glanced at it. The message was from my fiancée Claire's phone, synced to the tablet. It was from her mother, my future mother-in-law. The text itself was innocuous enough, a simple, almost casual question that, on its own, would have meant nothing. Any luck getting him to talk about the loans? And then, as if summoned by my gaze, a new message from Claire, a reply to her mother, popped up on the screen, the words appearing one by one, a slow, methodical execution of the life I thought I had. Not yet. He's avoiding it. But don't worry, I'll get him to agree before the wedding. Once he pays them off, I'm gone. I just stared at it, the screen a bright, malevolent rectangle in the dimming light of my office. The words didn't seem real. They felt like a line from a bad movie, a cliche so over the top it couldn't possibly be happening in my own quiet, predictable life. My brain, a machine built on logic and order, refused to process them. I run my own architecture firm. My entire life, my entire career is built on details, on structure, on the precise and predictable way that things fit together. And this one, single, devastating sentence had just taken a sledgehammer to the entire, carefully constructed edifice of my life. Gone. The word echoed in the sudden, roaring silence of my mind. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan. A cold, simple, and breathtakingly brutal plan. My first, primal instinct was a surge of pure, white-hot rage. I wanted to pick up that sleek, expensive tablet and hurl it through the wall. I wanted to storm into the living room, where I could hear her laughing, a light, carefree sound at some mindless sitcom on television, and I wanted to unleash a torrent of fury, of pain, of pure, unadulterated hell. But then, just as quickly as the rage had come, something else took its place. A strange, unnerving, and almost preternatural calm settled over me. This wasn't something you scream about. Screaming is a passionate act. Screaming is what you do when you're trying to save something. This thing, this relationship, this future I had so lovingly and so foolishly designed, it was already dead. All that was left was the demolition. With a hand that was surprisingly, unervingly steady, I picked up my own phone and took a clear, high-resolution picture of the tablet screen, capturing the entire, damning conversation. I emailed the photo to myself, a digital receipt for my own heartbreak. Then, my curiosity, now a cold, clinical instrument, I went back to the message thread on the tablet and I began to scroll up. She had been careless, so supremely confident in her deception, so sure that her quiet, predictable, and utterly besotted fiancé would never think to look, that she hadn't bothered to delete a thing. It was all there, a meticulous digital transcript of their conspiracy, going back months. It was a carefully orchestrated plot, masterminded by her mother, a woman I'd always found to be a bit grasping, but had never suspected of such outright malevolence, to manipulate me into paying off Claire's $150,000 in student loan debt from the art history degree she had never used. The texts were a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Her mother, playing the role of a twisted life coach, had provided a step-by-step guide to my own financial and emotional ruin. Don't be aggressive about it, one of her texts read. Make it about our future. Tell him you can't feel truly settled, truly ready to start your lives together, until you're both debt-free, as a team. Cry a little if you have to. He's a good guy. He'll feel guilty. And Claire's replies, a sickening chorus of her own complicity. He's so focused on the wedding planning right now. It's the perfect distraction. And then, the one that truly broke me, a flicker of something that resembled a conscience, quickly extinguished by her mother's cold, hard pragmatism. Almost feel bad sometimes, Claire had written. He's such a good guy. Her mother's reply was swift and brutal. Don't feel bad. Feel smart. This is for your future, not his. The most chilling part of their correspondence, however, was the discussion of the endgame, the exit strategy. But what do I do after? Claire had asked. It'll look so obvious if I leave, right after he pays the loans. You stay for a year. Her mother had advised, her words a blueprint for a premeditated heartbreak. Make it look good. Then, you say you're unhappy. You've grown apart. It happens all the time. By then, the money is gone. The loans are paid. You walk away, free and clear. It's a perfect plan. A perfect plan. For 2 years, I thought we were building a life together. A partnership based on love and trust. She thought she was executing a heist, a long con with a 6-figure payout. I closed the message app, the silence in the room now a heavy, suffocating thing. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, my movements slow and deliberate, my hand perfectly steady as I poured a glass of ice-cold water. She was still on the couch, her face bathed in the flickering blue light of the television. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice a warm, familiar sound that now felt alien and grotesque. She didn't even look up from the screen. "You okay? You've been quiet." "Just thinking about a project," I said, and I was shocked by the sheer, unadulterated normalcy of my own voice. It was the calmest, the clearest, the most dangerously focused I had ever felt in my entire life. She thought she was playing a game of high-stakes chess, a game she was so sure she was winning. She thought I didn't even know there was a board. She had no idea that I had just, in the space of a few soul-destroying minutes, seen the entire game, every move she had made, every move she was planning to make. I was about to flip the entire goddamn table over. The 2 weeks that followed were the strangest, and in many ways, the most surreal of my entire life. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I knew, with a cold, hard certainty, what a confrontation would bring. It would lead to a predictable and deeply unsatisfying drama of denial, of gaslighting, of expertly produced fake tears, and of hollow, meaningless promises to change. It would be messy, and I, an architect who builds his life on clean lines and precise angles, I don't do messy. I do clean. I do precise. And, as she was about to find out, I do final. The response to my first post was overwhelming, a chorus of digital voices urging me to play the long game, to drag out the deception, to exact a slow, torturous revenge. But I couldn't. Every moment I spent in the same house with her, every shared meal, every stilted conversation, every night I lay beside her in our bed, her breathing a quiet, steady rhythm of a conscience completely untroubled by her own treachery, it all felt like a lie, a poisonous, suffocating lie that was slowly killing me. My plan had to be fast, and it had to be brutal. My first step was to build my case. I documented everything. I took high-resolution photographs of every single text message, every damning word of their conspiracy, and I backed them up to a new, secure, and entirely private cloud server. Then I began to conduct a quiet, forensic audit of our shared finances. The picture that emerged was even uglier than I had imagined. She lived in my house, a beautiful, pre-war brownstone that I had purchased and painstakingly renovated with my own money, years before I had even met her. I paid the mortgage. I paid the property taxes. I paid all the utilities. She drove a car, a brand new, top-of-the-line SUV that was registered in my name. I paid for the insurance. I paid for the gas. I paid for our frequent and always expensive vacations. I paid for our dinners out, our concert tickets, our entire shared social life. Her small, almost negligible paycheck from the boutique art gallery, where she worked part-time, was, as she so often and so cheerfully reminded me, her fun money. My income, the product of years of hard work and relentless ambition, was our life money. I realized with a dawning, sickening horror, been supporting a parasite. And the parasite was now planning to kill the host after one last, big, and very expensive meal. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense, and deeply intimidating man named Frank, confirmed my next steps. She has no legal claim to your house or to any of your premarital assets as a girlfriend. He explained, his voice a calm, reassuring rumble. Your only real vulnerability is if you voluntarily, and with full knowledge, give her a large sum of money. Her entire plan, her entire perfect plan, hinges on you willingly and on the record agreeing to pay off those loans. So, he said, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face, that is exactly what you are going to do. That was the key, the linchpin of my entire counteroffensive. I had to let her think she was winning. I had to walk her right up to the finish line of her long con, let her taste the sweet, sweet victory, let her feel the weight of that $150,000 prize in her hands. And then, I had to pull the rug out from under her so hard, so fast, and so completely that she wouldn't know what hit her. And so, I began to play my part. I became the loving, doting, and slightly clueless fiancé she had always believed me to be. A few days after I had discovered her secret, I brought it up. We were in the kitchen, making dinner together, a scene of domestic bliss so perfect it was almost nauseating. I let out a long, theatrical sigh. You know, honey, I began, my voice a perfect imitation of a man burdened by deep, emotional thought. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about your student loans, about us starting our life together as a true team. She turned to me from the stove, her eyes wide with a carefully feigned, but still deeply satisfying, hope. You have? She asked, her voice a soft, breathless whisper. Yeah, I said, my own voice now a symphony of loving generosity. And I don't want that hanging over us. It's a shadow on our future. So, I've made a decision. It's my wedding gift to you. I'm going to pay them off. All of them. She burst into tears. It was a truly Oscar-worthy performance, a masterclass in manufactured emotion. She threw her arms around my neck, her body racked with what I knew were completely and beautifully fake sobs. She told me I was the most generous, the most wonderful, the most supportive man alive. She immediately, and with a triumphant, breathless excitement, called her mother to share the good news. I could hear her mother's own triumphant, almost feral squeals of delight through the phone. The fish had not only taken the bait, it had swallowed the hook, the line, and the sinker. "There's just one thing," I added, my voice a low, intimate murmur, after she had finally, and with great reluctance, ended the call with her co-conspirator. "I don't want to just wire the money. This is a huge, symbolic moment for us. I want to do it properly. I want to have a special dinner, a celebration with our parents. I'll have my bank draw up a certified cashier's check for the full amount, and I will present it to you that night in front of our families. A real, tangible symbol of us starting our new, debt-free life together." She was ecstatic. A public ceremony of her victory. A formal, documented transfer of my wealth into her hands. It was more than she could have possibly dreamed of. She thought I was being romantic. I was just setting the stage for her public execution. The dinner, which I meticulously planned for the following week, was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive stagecraft. I booked a private room at the best and most expensive restaurant in the city. The atmosphere was one of quiet, understated elegance, the perfect, ironic backdrop for the ugly, brutal drama that was about to unfold. Claire and her parents were on one side of the long, polished mahogany table. My own parents were on the other. Claire was glowing, absolutely radiant in a new, expensive dress she had no doubt purchased in anticipation of her impending windfall. Her mother, Susan, looked like a cat that had not only swallowed the canary, but had also managed to steal its nest egg. Her father, John, a decent, and as I now realize, completely and utterly clueless man, just looked happy, a proud father on the verge of seeing his daughter marry a good man. We went through the motions of a civilized family dinner. We made small talk. We drank expensive wine. We ate exquisitely prepared appetizers. Claire and her mother kept exchanging small, secret, and deeply self-satisfied smiles across the table. My own parents, bless their innocent hearts, were talking with a genuine, heartfelt excitement about the upcoming wedding, about their future grandchildren. Then, after the main course had been cleared, I stood up. I had a single, crisp, white envelope in my hand. "As you all know," I began, my voice calm and steady, commanding the attention of the room, "I've asked you here tonight for a very special reason. Claire and I are about to start our lives together, and I wanted to begin that new life on the right foot." I turned to Claire, a loving, adoring smile plastered on my face. "Claire," I said, my voice thick with a fake emotion that I was actually quite proud of, "your student loan debt has been a huge burden on you, and because I love you more than anything, I want to lift that burden. So, as my wedding gift to you, I am paying off your entire student loan debt." My parents beamed, their faces a picture of pride. Claire's father, John, a man I genuinely felt sorry for in that moment, clapped me on the shoulder, his eyes misty. Claire and her mother were practically vibrating with a triumphant, avaricious joy. I opened the envelope, but I didn't pull out a cashier's check. I pulled out a single, neatly folded piece of paper. It was a large, blown-up, and beautifully printed screenshot of the text message she had so carelessly sent to her mother 2 weeks ago. I laid it on the center of the table, for everyone to see, the words a stark, black-and-white indictment of her treachery. "Don't worry. Once he pays off my student loans, I'm gone." The silence that fell over that room was the loudest, most deafening thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Claire's face, which had been so radiant with a triumphant joy just moments before, went from a healthy, happy pink to a stark, bone-white horror in a single, gut-wrenching split second. Her mother, Susan, looked as if she had been physically slapped. My own parents stared at the paper, then at Claire, their faces a slow-motion picture of confusion morphing into a dawning, visceral disgust. Her father, John, read the text, his brow furrowed in a deep, confused line. And then he read it again. The color drained from his face. He looked at his daughter, then at his wife, and the dawning, horrifying realization of their shared, monstrous betrayal was a painful and deeply satisfying thing to witness. "This was never a wedding," I said, my voice now cold, even and almost bored tone. "It was a con. A very well-planned con, I'll admit. Your mother should be proud." I then, for the final, brutal flourish, pulled out a second set of papers from the envelope. They were a complete, printed, and beautifully formatted set of the entire text conversation between Claire and her mother, the one where they had so meticulously and so gleefully planned the entire sordid scheme. I handed a set to my parents, and I handed a set to her father. "I believe these will answer any lingering questions you might have," I said. Claire started sobbing then, a pathetic, gasping, and deeply unconvincing sound. "Mark," she cried, her voice a high, thin wail. No, it's not what it looks like. I can explain. There's nothing to explain, Claire, I said, my voice cutting through her performance with the sharp, clean precision of a scalpel. You explained it all perfectly in your texts. The wedding is off. We are over. I then looked directly at her father, a man I now saw not as an adversary, but as a fellow victim. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, John, I said, and I genuinely meant it. You raised a daughter, but your wife? I added, my gaze shifting to Susan, who was now staring at her own hands with a look of pure, unadulterated shame. Raised a con artist. Then I stood up. Mom, Dad, I said, let's go. We walked out of that restaurant, out of that private room of shame and shattered illusions, leaving them, the three of them, to sit in the silent, expensive wreckage of their perfect plan. The fallout began before I had even gotten to my car. A hysterical, screaming, and completely incoherent voicemail from Claire. Then, a single, furious text. You have ruined my life. My reply was simple, and it was the last thing I ever wrote to her. No, Claire. I just stopped paying for it. When I got home, all of her things were already gone. I had, with a foresight that now seemed almost psychic, arranged for a team of professional movers to pack up and deliver every last one of her belongings to her parents' house while we were all at the restaurant. The locks on my doors had been changed that afternoon. The digital key code had been erased. For the past 24 hours, my phone has been a digital war zone of her frantic, desperate attempts to reach me. I have finally, and with a deep, cleansing satisfaction, blocked her number and her mother's. But I did get one last desperate voicemail from a block number this morning. It was her voice a raw, sobbing, and almost unrecognizable sound. Mark, please, she cried. You can't do this. I made a mistake. A horrible, stupid mistake. It was my mom. She pushed me. Please, I'm going to go to your parents' house. I'm going to talk to them. They love me. They'll make you listen. She thinks this is still a negotiation. She thinks she can deploy her well-honed and now completely useless arsenal of fake tears and manipulative apologies. She thinks she can somehow win back my parents, a pair of kind but deeply principled people. She has no idea who my father is. She has no idea what happens when you try to con a family of architects. She's about to try and reason with the very man who taught me how to spot a fatal, structural flaw from a mile away.